Imagine reading a word as simple as cat in a sentence, and then seeing it in the very next sentence but not recognizing it. This condition is called dyslexia. Dyslexia is a developmental reading disorder caused by the brain's inability to recognize and process symbols. People with dyslexia are often highly intelligent, yet have trouble reading.
They don't really see symbols differently, as it is that they have a very hard time holding the label to the symbol. So I may see an S the same way you and I do, I just can't remember what that name for that thing is. So one day it may be an S, one day I've turned it to a C, I just don't remember. So it's that pulling it from visual memory and retaining the sound symbol correspondence that's very different for dyslexic children and adults.
For those with dyslexia, the condition affects nearly every part of their lives. Filling out a job application, following directions, even keeping up with current events. Symptoms of dyslexia include having difficulty with multi-step directions or sequential information, inability to recognize written words, difficulty rhyming, also struggling with writing or arithmetic. Although children with dyslexia often have average or above average intelligence, they often fall behind their classmates in school. This can lead to behavior problems and low self-esteem. When two of Tara Mahoney's triplets began struggling in school, she knew something was wrong.
Brian always struggled with his sounds, and he would confuse things. He would reverse things and confuse things. Jacqueline had done a project in school once, and it was a stocking, and she just had to make the letter J and decorate it, and the J was backwards, which I thought was pretty significant, being that her name began with J, that in third grade she wrote the letter backwards. So those were, pretty concrete signs to me that they were dyslexic.
Tara had Ryan and Jacqueline evaluated for dyslexia. As she suspected, they both have the disorder. Today, Ryan and Jacqueline are getting the help they need and are thriving in school, but not everyone is as lucky. Even with treatment, people with dyslexia may have lifelong difficulties with reading, but early intervention is the best hope for success.
The effect of not getting diagnosed often results in underachievement as an adult. I mean, you can't do what you want if you're hiding that you can't read. It also really can affect self-esteem and confidence. People become really anxious and they underachieve. They try out for jobs that are far too easy, where they don't have to read, where they can hide it. If you think your child has dyslexia, get them tested by a neuropsychologist who has experience looking for dyslexia, because if you don't have that information, how are you going to go forward? By third grade, the research says if you're not reading fluently, you probably never will. And so if we don't step in, can we really afford to have all these bright, creative kids who drop out and fail simply because somebody didn't teach them to read?
Located in Brooklyn, the Sterling School has helped hundreds of students overcome dyslexia and language learning disorders. Using a methodology based on the latest clinical research, Sterling caters to the special needs of dyslexic students, giving them educational opportunities traditional schools are unable to offer. When these students achieve success in the classroom, their confidence is bolstered and they develop a lifelong love of learning.
I founded the Sterling School for my son, Ethan, who was a bright 8-year-old dyslexic child who was not reading. And I needed him to have a future. And it was clear that there were other children who needed to have a future, whose parents were really desperate because they saw their children not achieving. And they're children who are so obviously bright in other ways, or sometimes so bright when you speak to them. They come home every day saying they're stupid. And so the mission of the Sterling School is to do two things: to give them back their understanding that they can learn, and to give them the skills to go forward.
The curriculum at the Sterling School is taught using the renowned Orton-Gillingham method. The multi-sensory approach requires intense instruction. That is why Sterling boasts a 1:8 teacher-student ratio, along with 1-to-1 instruction daily.
Orton and Gillingham were two people. Orton was a neurologist, Anna Gillingham was an educator, who realized in the 1920s that there were children who didn't seem to learn to read the way other children did. And they devised a method using kinesthetic, tactile, auditory, and visual stimulation, working in a direct sequential methodology so that children could see how the language goes together, and then with repetition and practice see the organization and structure of the language so they could use that to hold on to what that word actually said.
The Sterling School was founded in 1999 by Ruth Arberman. A longtime educator, Ruth was frustrated after her son Ethan was diagnosed with dyslexia, but was failing 3rd grade in a New York City public school. Ruth founded the Sterling School to provide parents with alternatives to traditional schools. Today, Ruth's son is in college and serves as a shining example, giving students with language learning disorders hope.
Before the Sterling School, I was not doing as well in school as I could have been. And it was really difficult for me to learn and to get along with my peers in some ways because no one else really understood. But I think coming here definitely made it a lot easier for me in the long run because I was able to read. And it also got my confidence, which I think a lot of dyslexics finds that once they can read, their confidence goes up and they kind of go hand in hand after a while.
Before I came here, my attitude about school was just, I didn't go there for the teachers, I went there for the students, just to have fun and to mess around. The only subject I did pay attention in was math, and that was it. If I didn't come to the Sterling School, I know I would be in jail. Plain and simple. That's it. Because most of my friends now who I think they have dyslexia or other learning difficulties are in jail, or they are just dropped out of school because they felt like it wasn't for them. I like to tell the teachers, thanks for everything, and especially Ruth, because she saved my life.
Prior to being at Sterling, the other schools that they were at, they were afraid to raise their hand. They weren't confident in themselves, and they always felt inferior to other children. But now they're confident and they have the ability to succeed, and they're confident in what they do. The main reason I would recommend Sterling is the small class size and the individual attention the children get with the one-on-one reading specialist, and the small class sizes is very important so they don't get looked over. And if there's a problem, the teacher catches it right away and is able to address the problem and help them to continue to learn.
Working with children with dyslexia is really rewarding for me because I know that I'm mildly dyslexic and it wasn't diagnosed when I was a child. They didn't really know of that when I went to school. I was very blessed. My 2nd grade teacher said to my mother, she's very bright, she's not lazy, Dick and Jane aren't working for her, you need to do something else. And so I was lucky because somebody intervened in my life. My passion is to intervene in other children's lives, to give them that future, because the stakes now are even higher.
If your child has dyslexia or a language learning disability, there is hope. Contact the Sterling School and get him or her on the path to success. For more information, visit sterlingschool.com.